Hey everybody, how you doing? Last night I talked about the city of Oakland's response to the Oakland Raiders NFL attorneys motion to dismiss, and that was actually a really great and lively discussion. And I want to thank you all for to tuning in. That was really or watching. That was really cool and responding and interacting. Okay, that was a lot of fun. This time I was gonna pick up on that topic as a part two, right, tonight. But considering this crazy cacophony of noises about, oh, I'm so sad that the Raiders are leaving, and oh, the last game is going to be emotional, and oh, I can't take it. Oh, you know what? We may very well find ourselves right back in the same position that we found ourselves in a year ago. Remember that? Remember how John Gruden took the victory lap after we beat Denver and everybody was emotional and it was sad and I was emotional and you were emotional and all of this stuff, and hey, the stadium turned out wasn't going to be ready, right? Remember that? And then Mr. Davis, Mark, decided he didn't like being sued by the city of Oakland, so he said, I'm not coming back under any circumstances and I'm going to play somebody place else, right? Well, there was no place else to play. So the Raiders started making up venues. Oh, they're going to London. Okay. Oh, they're going to San Antonio. Remember that? Okay. Oh, they're going to San Diego. Remember that? Okay. Oh, they're going to Oracle Park where the Giants play because San Francisco will love them. To which San Francisco Mayor London Breed said, we are not getting in the middle of your dispute. And so all that went crashing down, baby. Okay? Like, no, it didn't happen. All right? So here we come back full circle to where it feels like deja vu all over again. And it should. Because, yes, the stadium has progressed in its move toward its eventual opening at some time, but it's also on a fast track. There have been a number of problems and delays, and vastly different from the Atlanta Falcons situation, where, among other publications, the Atlanta Journal Constitution was very open in saying, hey, you know what? There's a delay. We're supposed to open in June, right? But they said, okay, it's not going to happen in June because they had a problem with the roof. And then they had problems with steel prior to that. In fact, they had the problems with steel were so acute that the steel provider for that stadium said, you know what, we're out of the stadium business. In fact, we're not going to provide steel anymore. We're just done. Seriously. Okay. And they bowed out, which meant that kind of a bad thing with respect to the Las Vegas stadium because it compressed the overall market of providers, steel fabricators who are willing to work on a project like Las Vegas Stadium, let alone Atlanta Falcons' new stadium. Which means what? Which means the prices go up. Okay, keep that in mind. Because in the Las Vegas Stadium situation, we have bad bolts that need to be replaced. I'm not going to get in the whole China situation because my informants, the Las Vegas whistleblower workers, said, hey, no pictures, no proof. That's the way they roll. And not only that, I say that because I have more photographs, folks. And I'll give you a hint of what's coming. Oakland Raiders chief operating officer, all right, Don Webb, said that it was over tightening of bolts, okay? Well, I have photographs that are marked QC, which is what I'm told is a mark that is put on the areas of the compression ring, hey ML, that in this instance, okay, after inspection. So if, and this is the point that the Las Vegas Stadium whistleblower workers have made to me, if there was an over tightening of bolts, why did you mark QC? Okay. Why did you mark QC? Right? In other words, somebody approved, there's no good way about this. Someone approved the results without, without stopping to say, hey, what's this? They just went QC. You would say, why would they do that? Well, it all comes back to that overarching objective I've talked about again and again and again. What is it? Finishing on a fast track. That's why. So think about, if you followed this, the number of maladies we've discovered because Las Vegas Stadium has been put on this fast track. There's a bolt problem. Then there was the steel problem. Then there are problems that were caused by taking the entire process out of sequence. So now you have cable net roof that was reportedly weakened in certain areas, and so it had to be moved back to April before they could actually finish the thing so they can get the rest of the structure done around it, okay? Wow. All because they're trying to hurry up. The hurrying up has produced more problems, such that the Raiders may find themselves coming right back to the Coliseum for at least half of 2020. Now get this, the way the extension is written, they got to play the entire season, because that $10.5 million is not going to be cut in half because they decided they're going to play half the season at the Coliseum. So the Raiders have a very gigantic organization-defining decision to make come April. They've got to decide whether they're going to fish or cut bait. I personally think they're smarter fishing rather than cutting bait. If they cut bait, hey, John Acala, they're going to find themselves, the Raiders, in a lot of financial trouble with this thing. Because what happens if they cut bait and they turn out they can't find any place to play? They have to run around once again and make all of these deals and spend hand over fist money that really they don't have to spend, and they're going to have to scramble around and try to figure out how to get the money to spend to solve a problem that could have easily been solved if they had just said, you know, we'll stay in Oakland and pay the $10.5 million, work a deal with someone else to pass that cost on so that it's less of a burden on us as we continue to spend money on Las Vegas Stadium. That's the situation that the organization finds itself in. Now, their response is going to be, if we do that, we're going to wind up paying a lot of money because of the way the contract is written. But really, that's not them. That's Mortensen. And there would unfortunately have to be a gigantic lawsuit that would be contemplated, although I would pray it not be filed, because it would indicate an inability to adjust or to negotiate terms that are favorable to both parties, such that both parties, in this instance, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, not both, several parties, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, the Raiders, the Stadco, Stadium Corporation, Mortensen McCarthy, okay, the subcontractors, they would all be in this. They would all be in this, all right? And John Acala, so I'll get to your comments and questions right now. And Kenny G says, good news for the fans here in the Bay Area. ML Scott says, hi. I say, hey, ML, how you doing? Kenny G says, but I hope the Raiders hit on DOS #1 draft next season. Those two number ones. Okay, I get it. Yeah, the 18s. They need to move up, the Raiders. They need to take the two, trade them, and I think the Raiders headed into Las Vegas, I think they need to get in the sweepstakes for one of these quarterbacks coming out, either Burrow I think Justin Fields still has one more year at Ohio State. I don't know if he's coming out or not. He may decide to come out. I think that would be a mistake. I think he needs one more year and then come out 2021. But um, regardless of how they work it, the Raiders need to start thinking about a quarterback for the future in Las Vegas. Period. Even if that quarterback for the future winds up playing in Oakland in 2020 before heading to Las Vegas. Okay? But, and I'm not saying that as a criticism to Derek Carr. I'm saying that as a reflection of Derek Carr's age and the changing game of football that I believe, unfortunately, is starting to uh, point to another natural direction for the Raiders that needs to get on now. If it's not going, I mean, look, there's two ways to look at this. If they're not going to adjust their offense such that Derek Carr appears to be mobile, yes, I said it just like that, then they need to ask themselves how, to what degree they're going to ride Derek Carr into the future. I'm a fan of Derek Carr. Okay, I like Derek Carr. I've never not liked him. My only truck early on was that I felt Derek Carr was pushed into a situation and marked the chosen one, okay, before he was ready. And that was my issue. Because a lot of people, some may be watching this right now, were so pro Derek Carr, they didn't want to hear, they didn't want to hear me say there should be a competition between McGloin and all these other folks. And then, select Carr. But it was like they stuck Carr in there and they just put this thing on it and said, bling, you're the one. And that's it. Okay? And they did so because the NFL was on this marketing tear to make sure that every team had its version of the triplets. The triplets were this term coined during the Dallas Cowboys' successful, series of Super Bowl runs where you had Troy Aikman at quarterback, Michael Irvin at wide receiver, and Emmitt Smith at running back. And if you think about it, every successful team in NFL history, save for one, has had its version of the triplets. Now, the one exception to the rule is the New England Patriots, because beyond Tom Brady, it's pretty hard to say that they had a triplet, because Brady has been the constant. You've had so many wide receivers just come in and go out. For example, before there was Julian Edelman, there was Wes Welker. Remember that? There was Rob Gronkowski. There was the unfortunate late Aaron Hernandez, who was a great tight end. There were running backs like the current Sony Michel, okay? And then there were other running backs that were on different teams, other teams, didn't pan out well, but came to the Patriots and performed exceptionally well. There are people you never heard of, like Danny Burkhead. The Patriots had a lot of nobodies on offense, people that you didn't know unless you really paid attention to the game. And even then, they were the do-your-job types. They weren't good at getting you a lot of spectacular yards, but they were good at executing what they were asked to do at any particular moment in the game, like James White currently. Okay? So, all of that, you had Brady. But except the Patriots, you had, Ken Stabler, Cliff Branch, Mark Van Egan, and Clarence Davis for the Raiders. That was the 70s. You had Bradshaw, Swan, and Stallworth, and Franco Harris. Okay? So those you had quarterback, wide receiver or wide receivers, and running back, right? I mean, you had there are a number of teams where you can look at that and say, hey, here's a version of the triplets. The early Dallas Cowboys, Roger Staubach, Drew Pearson, Tony Dorsett, right? I mean, they're just all over the place. So the idea was to bring in and have teams, in particular the Raiders, to have this triplet set. Because one thing you got to understand is that the league was very concerned, and that really led to this whole Las Vegas move, that the Raiders were not pulling up or able to pull up their end of the NFL league-wide bargain that every organization would make at least $25 million a year in local income. That was the objective. And so with the Raiders, the core concern is they're not really doing this. What can we do to get them better? What can we do to improve their lot? And that's why they were so impatient to get a new stadium done in the Bay Area. And they saw the city of Oakland, the county of Alameda warring with each other, and they're like, oh my goodness, all right. And Nate Miley's 2015 stunt where he put that press release out and said we're severing from the city after a meeting with the Raiders was really embarrassing to the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda. And from the perspective of the league, they were like, what's wrong with these people? Okay? Just being honest. Just being honest. So let me continue reading your comments. Christian Navarro says, this sounds like a job only Bob the Builder can fix. Yeah. John Carla, how you doing? And he says, I thought they negotiated a reduction in rent for 2020, same as this year. I've been trying to get confirmation to that because I got that from one source who, even though that one source is close to the matter, I needed a backup. And I want to nail that down before I blast that out officially. But I know that there are a number of renegotiations going on in the wake of the departure of Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Executive Director Scott McKibben. Okay. So I wanted to nail that down before I made it a separate headline. Note, I had not made it a separate headline for a reason. I wanted to, something in me just said, hey, check that out. Okay. Check that out. Because the source that I got it from was really a good source, but something just in here said, check it out. That's the only reason. All right. Yeah. So, hey, Donuts, what's going on? How you doing? So we get right now, though, we get Charles Woodson saying this.
It was incredible, man. You know, it was against a rival. You know, the game ended up going into overtime. You know, it was a night game. And, you know, just the way the team battled.
This is Charles sharing his Coliseum memory.
The way the team fought, you know, was extra special. You know, I actually got to, you know, had a chance to throw a pass, but I elected not to throw it because I didn't want to throw an interception on my last play. But that was fun to get the ball back in my hands. But then, you know, after the game, you know, to be able to address the fans, you know, have the little gator.
We needed the O thing, you know.
Raid bath or water or whatever it was, man, was pretty cool. And to have your teammates around after the game, you know, just in appreciation of, you know, what they thought of me, you know, as a player and as a teammate. You know, that was great for me. Having a fan run out on the field, you know, me and Derek just talked about that. That was unreal. You know,
did he look crazy?
Well, it's something you only feel like you see that kind of stuff on TV. You know, and you know, I was telling Derek that, you know, he touched me, and I'm thinking, why is the referee touching me? You know,
This is fan.
Yeah, I turned to see, you know what I'm saying, a fan on the field, and I'm like,
oh, Charles,
discombobulated, you know, but.
Wow. That's Charles Woodson. It could go on, but that goes on for a while. Charles Woodson has great wine, by the way. That is an unpaid endorsement of Charles Woodson wine. But the whole point is they were asking him to make comments about, you know, what you're going to miss about the Coliseum and all of that. And so they asked him that, and then I think Gruden threw in a comment or two, and the whole point is they need to, and you could tell this is the product of the Raiders PR brass headed by Will Kiss, that they're saying, okay, we need to basically, it wouldn't surprise me if they had a book say exactly what we said last year, right? Because by now, this should be pro forma to them. You know, they've had practice at it, okay? So they ought to be able to just wind up the tape, put up, you know, cardboard, cut out representations of different Raiders, and just let the tape run. That's really what they should do. And I think that would be more effective, and I think it would be actually kind of a funny gesture because it would be truly reflective of the situation, you know. The L train says, I live close to Vegas. Raiders aren't going back to the Coliseum. Everyone is hyped for the squad to get here, as well as other future events of the stadium, including WrestleMania. Okay, that's great. No one ever said that you guys weren't hyped. Let me tell you something, being hyped is one thing, but the reality is something just not working out. It's something else, okay? You guys were hyped last year. You guys were hyped the year before that, too. You guys have been hyped. But there's the reality, okay? There is the reality that you're talking about a fast track and a lot of mistakes. And I would hope you would have the desire to get it right. Every time I see somebody post something like that or make a criticism, my thought is, do you really want to have an accident at the stadium? Are you that kind of person? Do you actually think about what you're writing? You know, let me tell you why I am so big on telling the truth about this. The foremost reason is the fact that I had a group out of the blue of Las Vegas whistleblower workers come to me and send me emails and photographs about the problems there. And nobody else has that. If they did, or they didn't put them out with the workers sent to them, they've done a disservice to everybody because of the eventual consequences that could occur if these problems are not addressed. And I mean more than the bad bolts. I mean the bad welds in certain areas. Someone put out a number like there was 12. That's really nonsensical. Whoever did that was, I think, Webb. That was not the right thing to do. I don't know who is instructing the good Don Webb, the Raiders chief operating officer, but they need to stop. Okay, and so at any rate, um, the simple fact of the matter is that the issue is that this project, if you read all of the subcontractor entries online, discusses how it's on a fast track. There is a $5 million a day penalty if the schedule's missed. But here's the thing, they keep moving the schedule, all right? They keep moving the goalposts, and they should. My whole point is this, get it right. I've said that before. I'll say it again, get it right. And Jacob P says, can you repeat the prior news for the 2020 Raiders in Oakland? And that was what I was talking about. I wanted to get right the meat negotiation regarding the rent. I was told by a source that is basically part of the deal negotiations that the rent was to be the same. But I wanted to confirm that because another source said they weren't sure if that was exactly the case. However, this source, it's a matter of like, I don't want to if I get too detailed, you figure out who's who. Okay. I'm going to leave that alone. And I just want to double check, right? And Suzette says, hey, JP from the P, how you doing, buddy? JP from the P, how you doing, buddy? Suzette says, Las Vegas will never be home. Oakland is magical. There's no other place to be. The L Train says, not at all. But if you now much about, I think what I'm gonna amend what you're writing, L Train. L Train says, if you know much about Las Vegas real estate and building, there are always setbacks. I've covered CES Las Vegas for 10 years. I know a ton, okay? They never get it right first round, including the Fontainebleau and resorts we're currently. Right. So that's my point is, it's not, look, I don't care about Las Vegas history because you're new to this, I believe. So I'm going to say something that you did not at all hear me say before. Las Vegas is the champion of economic development. It is the best city to hold conventions ever. Period. End of story, okay? Las Vegas has a fast track for trying to get things built. That is completely separate from the fact, well, not entirely separate. It is part of the DNA that's creating this problem, of the fact that there are people pushing this project. I have been told by not one, but not two, but three different people who don't know each other that there are people, hands involved in this project that, quote, shouldn't be there. And I never get an answer to my question. What do you mean? They don't ask. They don't answer it. Okay? What are you referring to? Whose hands shouldn't be there? Because I'll bet you one thing, there are a lot of people who believe that they should be involved in some kind of way. All right? Okay? So my point is that there's this project in of itself has a deep and complex history, a story unto itself that one should be intimately familiar with so they can understand exactly where the project is right now. Right now, okay? Right now. So, some of you have come and you have these prejudices about Oakland. You don't know Oakland, and you're surface. What I mean by surface is you make these pronouncements, right? In other words, this is this and that is that and everything else, all right? So that might be easy to do because it requires no thinking, but it also moves you dramatically away from the truth about anything. And I find that people do that a lot today. It's always a pronouncement. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Well, why? Whatever happened, a little thinking and discussion about stuff, Because if you believe something's going to happen, it's kind of like, well, there's no discussion. Yeah, but the reality is there is a discussion, a very deep one. Let me get to your comments. One Love. Hennessy says, doesn't even sound right. Las Vegas Raiders. Nope, doesn't sound good. And what else? Hennessy says, we'll rep Oakland Raiders for life. We'll never rep Las Vegas Raiders anything. Roland Dove says, good evening all. The L Train says, Raiders actually belong to LA, not Oakland. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. Is that Joseph Amenderis back there playing around? That's a good. Joseph is one of our vloggers. He likes to, pump LA whenever he gets a chance, right? But he also likes to goose us a bit just to get us going. Checks in the mail. Hennessy says, Hennessy doesn't even sound right. Las Vegas Raiders. Nope, doesn't sound good. Black Lion says, one love, Oakland Raider Nation. Hennessy says, do your history, dude. Raiders were born in Oakland. Yep. Black Lion says, the Raiders were founded in LA, in Oakland, not LA. Stop the madness. Black Lion says, and the Raiders will never belong to Vegas. Bet on that, no pun intended. And the L Train just wrote, was got to be the dumbest comment I've ever seen in my entire life. And it is. I'm going to highlight this comment by focusing on it, folks. Look at this. LA, Oakland, doesn't matter where they first played. Yes, it does. That's not even, I mean, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to gaslight you, okay? Although arguably someone would say, you're already gaslighting him. No, I'm not trying to gaslight you. But it's, to anybody who actually knows the history of the Raiders, that's like something a 14-year-old might write. Just to, because they've got nothing better to do. I'm just saying. I'm just being honest, okay? It's funny. Because, in fact, where a team, this is how ridiculous that is, all right? Where a team started has very much to do with, and when, with why their brand is their brand. Like, for example, the Raiders were supposedly going to be called the Seniors, but weren't, and Raiders were selected as the more popular name, but also the colors of the Raiders became because Mr. Al Davis liked Penn State, and he liked that. But also there was a rebel attitude, and Al Davis kind of dressed to me like he's like the Fonzie of the NFL with the leather jackets and sometimes he had the collar up and all that stuff, right? The black leather and the white T-shirt. I mean, he looked like Fonzie before Happy Days in real life. So and that was definitely informed by his being in Oakland, in the Bay Area, and the Hells Angels and everything else. And that renegade attitude that Oakland had. You would not get that in Los Angeles. I'm sorry. There is under no set of circumstances a scenario that says that the Raiders could have been born in LA. LA is called La La Land for a reason. The Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, are such that there was nothing ever la la about them, even in LA, except their play on the field. And that's why Al Davis took them out of LA, because they were starting to play la la. Okay? So, no, forget it. All right? And L Train says, nobody wants to play in Oakland. Look at the mass exodus. That's not true. That has to do with a complicated set of circumstances that add up to lousy economic development, a society in the Bay Area that's really forgotten how to build things with respect to government. We're starting to see things to the private sector, which is a bad thing. Government used to know how to build things. And overall, a dramatically high cost threshold for a lot of things that has caused a lot of problems, and they still continue to cause a lot of problems. All right. Black Lion says, not where they're first called. Oakland is the reason they're called the Raiders. Yep. And John Acosta says, how do you see the Jags-Raiders game playing out? Unfortunately, given the Raiders' current problems, I see the Jags winning. And I say that because there's this old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But encapsulated within that overall observation is the simple fact that the Raiders have not gotten it together in terms of engineering an in-game adjustment to achieve a win. All right? And so the Raiders psychologically are a broken team because they haven't solved the riddle of how to fix their game plans during the game. And it's because I say riddle because it's a riddle for them. And the last game, they gave up 552 yards of total offense to a team that I don't associate with that kind of offensive output. And neither do you. 552 yards. Think about this. Let's put it another way. The Raiders were less than 50 yards from having 600 yards planted on their forehead by their opponent. That's embarrassing. Okay? That's embarrassing. And yet, no heads roll, nothing happens. It's like, oh, next one. Wow. And I feel sorry for the players because they're good players, but the players are not receiving the type of coaching that will assure wins. If they did, hey, we would have been staring at wild card playoff at least. Having said that, you would say, wait a minute, they can still make the playoffs. And I'm saying, yeah, but I have lost confidence in their ability to do so. And I certainly hope I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm loving you come and say, Zinni, you were wrong, you weren't there, fine, okay? I'm happy. But I'm sorry, folks. I have wished this entire season the Raiders would do well enough to at least achieve a wild card. And they have, when you start looking at the all-22, the litany of errors that come out during a game that should be fixed in the middle of the game are not done. And it is freaking pissy, okay? Period, end of period, all right? Go back to your comments before I get too far down my own pike. Robert Mitchell says, people love to downplay Oakland, shaking my head. We're supposed to be Raider Nation while they hate. Agreed. Great point. Eric Young prior to that said, it matters where you were born. The L Train says, move back to Oakland and played like trash ever since Brady threw them out the door. They need a change. Vegas will be great for the Raiders. Y'all can come visit. Thanks for ginning people up. Eric Young says, so you're saying Al Davis was the original author Fonzarelli? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Al Davis was the original Fonz. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Tervell Johnson said, I feel like LA brought a lot of Latino flavor to the Raiders that has spread to a lot of the NFL teams. I think the LA years and the story of the Raiders, along with the Oakland identity as Raider Nation. I don't think so. Okay, I can make a very blunt argument that the Raiders established a brand that became popular with anybody that considered themselves maybe on the fringe of the economy and enjoyed being thought of as rough, tough, and hated. Okay, I don't attach that to an ethnicity. I attach that to an option, a choice. It's a lifestyle. It's a brand. Some people express it with tattoos. Some people express it in many different ways. But it is its own structure of behavior that includes fashion and food and colors and everything else. Unfortunately, it has not produced a winning football team. And the bottom line is you can get caught up in it. All right. But Al Davis knows that the Raiders brand and its winning ways were built in Oakland, not LA. They weren't even sustained in Los Angeles. And then for the people talking about Las Vegas, you have Raider executives, most notably Don Webb on the 17th of September of 2017, dissing Raider fans. Remember that? Talking about how they wanted a more family-friendly atmosphere. Okay? So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, your Raider fans are going to be great, and this is the Raiders, and the Raiders are coming here, and they'll be all right. The Raider fans build the environment around which the team performs and wins. The fans in Vegas, where they're higher dollar amount, casino-oriented, are going to be completely different. And a lot of those fans are going to be backers of teams like the Green Bay Packers. And how do I know that? Because your current governor of Nevada had said so. There are people who've told me, like, for example, Rich Vallata of the Review-Journal, he's a Denver Broncos fan. Think about that. So you run the risk of having a stadium that is up to 50% full of people who are fans of the opponent of the Raiders. Okay? Those folks buying season tickets and PSLs and everything, you think they're all Raider fans as opposed to ticket brokers and people involved in various aspects of hospitality business that want to turn those tickets over? You need to really think about that. The black hole is going to be very different, and those who thought that the Raider brand was going to be just transferred over to Vegas without any impact are going to be in for an extremely rude awakening. Won't be the same. There will be people in Vegas who are Raider fans who will look to pick fights with people because they're drunk and they want to identify themselves that way, which is really stupid. Okay, it should be very sad. And they'll miss the whole deal. Being a Raider fan is not getting in fights with people. Being a Raider fan is about expressing diversity, understanding diversity. It's about understanding great food, about people who care about each other, who make sure that, hey, if someone has a baby in need, they make sure the baby gets the need. Have you ever watched? I'm talking about real Raider Nation. Coming to the aid of people. That's what Raider Nation really does. And a lot of you haven't talked about that. There are a lot of beautiful people associated with Raider Nation that have been forgotten in all of this. And it's sad. I will continue. Okay, so Rolling Dubs, how you doing? And Cedar says the Raiders won't be in Las Vegas forever. Rolling Dubs says rather have a better draft pick than a first round knockout. Black Lion says I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anybody's comments. I'm sorry. John Acosta says I read somewhere Raiders have only scored 20 points all season in third quarter. Caesar Canete says the Raiders won't be in Las Vegas forever. Roland Dub says rather have a better draft pick than a first-round knockout. Black Lion says not even the running Rebels could win in Vegas. It's not a sports town. There will be more fans of the visiting team in Vegas than Raider fans. Mr. C Hardcore Sports did see where the NFL approved a debt waiver loan. Does this mean they had to give them another loan? And yeah, because they have problems. Because they have problems. And they need that money to overcome the fact that they don't have 12 founding partner sponsors. Okay? And I have to candidly, while I know exactly what that means, I didn't see the headline. Debt waiver loan, NFL Raiders. I'm just doing a quick search here. And seeing, yeah, that was 33 minutes ago. NFL approves debt waiver for Raiders' $378 million relocation fee. Raiders given permission to exceed NFL debt limit. That's new news. And I'm going to talk about that because it says NFL owners approved a waiver that will allow the Raiders to borrow in order to cover the $378 million relocation fee to Las Vegas. Owners reportedly were comfortable allowing the club to take on the heavier than usual debt because the team is being received so well in their future hometown. The Raiders are said to have exceeded revenue generation benchmarks as they set to move into their new $1.9 billion home. And that's true. The Raiders are set to play a last game in Oakland Sunday. Yeah, okay. At any rate, that's that. And then let's see here. And we've got, I was actually approved to go to that meeting, but I did not. It was a one-day meeting on the 11th, and I see, Vince, did Vinny go? No, he didn't. He was, Vinny who was with the LA Daily News, is now with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. And basically, they put it behind a paywall, which I'm not going to pay for, because I don't, okay. Anyway, it's no surprise that was done. That was for the relocation fee. But it would not surprise me if the Raiders go back and get more money because of the sponsorship shortfall, okay? So, because they're supposed to have 12 founding partner sponsors, and they only have 9. They only have 9. Hey, it just occurred to me, Vinny may be watching tonight. Hey, Vinny, welcome. Why don't you come on a formal way, like you used to? Cesar says they'll be back in Oakland for the third final time. They won't work out in Vegas, trust me. Plus, the Vegas locals didn't even want them there in the first place. That's a controversial decision. Black Lion says a better atmosphere in a place called Sin City. That's unbelievable. Laugh out loud. E-Rise Cali. Hey, how you doing, E-Rise? E-Rise says the Raiders will thrive in Vegas as long as they are winning. If they become a losing franchise there, ... we'll be packing out at the house like they did in Oakland in 2014 at 0-10. Doubt it. Pedro Gallardo says, good point. Everyone wants to point the Raiders as a bad guy. Yeah. L Train says, Sin City A's has a nice ring to it. Hey, L Train, put this in your bonnet. You ready? The Oakland Athletics have successfully negotiated and gotten the political support for a bill that was approved by the California legislature and signed by the governor that will allow them access through the Oakland City Council to $1.4 billion in redevelopment money for their ballpark at Howard Terminal. Okay? So please, stop the crap. All right, so all that stuff about, the city of Oakland can't do this. No. I'll tell you what happened. The Raiders pissed off Libby. The Raiders treated Libby in a way that she would describe as sexist. That's the truth. And for those of you who don't know, she's my god sister. So, now do I defend her way of handling it? No. I understand it though. Okay. I would have handled it a different way. I told her, you know what, you should do a press conference. This conversation we had a long time ago. I said, you should do a press conference and talk about how you've been treated and what you've heard. And bring it out into the open and let everybody deal with it, including the league. She refused to do that. She didn't want to bring that element into the situation. But brother, it was there big time. Big time. All right? The reason why she stuck her neck out for the A's wasn't this thing about her belief the A's were necessarily better, although she did think that they were better economically, although there were certain people that were talking her out of that, okay? But it's hard to do that when you have the organization consistently showing disrespect to the 50th mayor of Oakland at the same time. I remember it was September 15th, 15, excuse me, where she was expecting a call from Mr. Davis. She never got it. She says the Raiders, quote, she says, the Raiders are not returning my phone calls. By contrast, Dave Cavall does not treat her like, the president of the A's does not treat her like that. So what do you expect? There's only so much a person will put up with. Are you hearing me? You get what I'm saying? All right? There's only so much a person will put up with. That was wrong. So there you go. All right. I think everybody stopped commenting on that. I didn't mean to shut everybody up, but hey, truth's the truth. Okay? And, you know, whether or not anybody will learn anything from it, well, they feel like, hey, they're off to another place. But there's a lot of hard feelings between the Raiders and the city of Oakland, and within the city of Oakland, the mayor. And the mayor has a specific set of hard feelings that are entirely justified. Again, I would have handled it differently. I would have raised the issue just so that it could be raised up, problem solved, and you move forward, okay? But she let it fester. And the Raiders didn't do themselves any favors in the process. All right. So, it is 1:50. Oh, John Akala says, how do you think attendance will be in Vegas? I think initially, look, the first 3 years of the stadium, it's going to be outstanding. It's going to be very exciting. I mean, what other stadium do you know? I mean, let's talk about, there's two things here, all right? There's Raiders within the larger story of Las Vegas need for a large-scale event center, which has gone all the way back to, what, 2011, okay? And with that large-scale event center, combined with, as I said the other night, shows like a stadium residency for Beyonce and 500 dancers, wow. I mean, that would be incredible. Absolutely incredible. So it'll go through a novelty period because Las Vegas has never had anything like it. People will see images coming out of it. That will be incredible. However, it will have a competitor. Like everything in Las Vegas. A friend of mine said that Las Vegas, who lived in Las Vegas for some time, said that Las Vegas has one problem in that it likes to get you sort of pregnant. Like halfway. It doesn't exactly complete the job. And so this project is starting to look like one of those examples. Keep that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind. I'll tell you what's personally hard for me about this whole thing. First of all, I love the National Football League, so I don't view the league as as a villain here. I don't. My coverage of the league has been and will continue to be the NFL draft. It wasn't the Raiders. The Raiders kind of happened because I live in Oakland, but the NFL draft happened for me as coverage because I tried to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland, and the city of Oakland treated me like crap in the face of the NFL, and the NFL came along and said, is there anything we can do for you? Not the Raiders. In fact, while I was bringing the Super Bowl to Oakland or trying to, even the Raiders were sort of like, they had this public thing where they were making fun of me in a sense, but behind the scenes, they were helping me because they're in the middle of a lawsuit. And I thought, I understood the game, but overall, what I learned is I got a firsthand driver's seat feeling about what it's like to represent a city that has an enormous self-esteem problem, and that's Oakland's problem. Oakland government's problem, not private sector. Private sector now, you have money coming in from the outside, spending money in Oakland and transforming it. Oakland is being transformed from the outside. That's the biggest problem. It's not the inside of Oakland governing how it looks, okay? It's people like, throwing all this money at it, all right? That's the biggest problem. Pedro says, this Oakland Jags game ain't the last game in Oakland. I really don't think it is. I don't. Myself. And if it is, it is. But it's just a feeling I have about it's not a feeling. It's a hypothesis, an educated guess based on study. Based on things like this roof problem, all these litany of problems. Just get it right, okay? Just get it right. Pedro says, so we wait till 2021? I think it's smart to do so. All the signs point to that. I really think it's smart to do so. Now, getting back to the central question, will the facility be successful in Las Vegas? Let me put it this way, just so that no one has any doubt about what I'm saying. Y-E-S. Yes. In gigantic letters, okay? Yes. It will be. However, it will have a competitor, and that's the MSG Sphere, which is going to be just a few blocks away. And is under construction as I speak, and is supposed to open, I believe, 2021, next year. 17,000 seats, surround everything, different type of technology that's going to change entertainment, they say. And do you know who built it, or who's building it? Sheldon Adelson with Madison Square Garden. And why is he doing that, you would ask? Is something to do with being angry with the Raiders, I wonder? Just wondering. It just seems sort of odd, the timing, and considering the size of this project, this 500-foot diameter orb in the middle of Vegas that's going to dominate the skyline and take a little bit of luster away from the stadium in a way that can only happen in Las Vegas. That's cold, man. That's cold, all right? All right, so, folks, it's 1:56. I'm going to do another live stream tomorrow. And we'll continue the discussion because I think this is very special and very needed to do so. Like I said, though, there are a lot of truths here that people don't want to talk about and don't want, in a lot of cases, in the light. But when you understand them and you know them, you understand how we got here and where we're going to go. Las Vegas needs a special event center, no question about it. But this was done, and not only that, you would say this was also done for another reason. Because the genius of Sheldon Adelson, this is how he works in his mind, said this: hey, I don't like millions, really billions of public money going to convention facilities. It should be a private sector affair. This has been his personal 1,000-year war for the past 25 years, okay? So he saw in Mark Davis' need for a new stadium an opportunity to engineer the politics of the Nevada legislature in such a way that he could steer $750 million away from the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau. You see, prior to the Raiders coming along, thanks to Mr. Adelson, there was just the Las Vegas Convention Center expansion, and what Mr. Adelson saw was the continued surrounding of his Las Vegas, his Sands Expo. It's a beautiful facility, his privately owned convention building, with publicly owned and financed competitors as he saw it. And I say, reason why I say as he saw it is because the fact of the matter is, the bigger CES gets, the more money his his Sands Expo makes. It's a key component of CES and a beautiful facility. It houses all the foreign pavilions, like the Italian pavilion that I'm going to be going to. It's the startup hub, the place to be to see what's happening. All right. So, Adelson found in Mark Davis a willing partner to achieve his personal political objectives, and he got it. He got it. All right. So, get your comments here. Black Lion says, whatever happened to the LA Seahawks? It's not over till it's over. Is anyone remember that? I don't see the Seahawks leaving Seattle at all. Eric Powell Zinn, do you think the league will have the first 4 games on the road, then a bye week if necessary in 2020 if stadium's not ready by 7/31? I think so. I think that's the best way that they could try to engineer it. But because that's quite possible. All right. And that would be the most likely outcome. But the reason why I'm squinting like this is, well, the move-in dates, UNLV issue. But having said that, you could very much adjust the schedule in that way. But that would mean no preseason games, okay? It's very possible. I want to research if that's happened before. I don't believe that it has. I know in the case of the Falcons situation, it's a few months delay. They'll work it out. Anyway, good night, everybody. I'll see you. Live long and prosper. All right, see you later.